want to explain to you guys about France. France is the largest nation in Western Europe and very important nation in Europe. Okay guys, this is the map of France. The land area is about 211,000 square miles, while in southeast we can see there Spain is the border, in east Italy and Switzerland, and in northwest is Germany, Luxembourg and Belgium. Look at this graph. This graph is actually in 2015, but this still same in this year 2021, where the largest religion in France is actually Christian, and the second one is Muslim. Next, culture in France. Paris is not only the capital but also acts as the center of the fashion and holds the global fashion. Architectures in France also represent their culture, since there are a lot of unique buildings in there. For example, the most popular in France that everyone should know is the Eiffel Tower. Next, population. Right now, in 2021, based on Worldometer, the current population of France is 65,404,780. Next, flag of France.
The tricolour combines realist white with republican red, came to be seen as a symbol of moderation and of a nationalism that transcended factionalism. The French government website states that the white field was the colour of the king, while blue and red were the colour of Paris.
Hi, my name is Rifa Shazani binti Muhammad Rashid. I'm going to tell about public policy that was divided by two, which is fiscal and monetary policy. It also divided into expansionary and contractionary. For fiscal policy, it was focused on taxes and government spending. Meanwhile, it also focused on national spending, employment rate, and high price level. In contractionary way, it works by control the rate of inflation that's struck in the country. If inflation is still going without any action, then the French citizens may cut off their spending daily because of the rate of price required is too high. It is because the rate of price increased dramatically and they could not spend more for their daily life. Next, for expansionary fiscal policy, it works to control and overcome the unemployment rate. If they have a high rate of unemployment, so the country may face some problems such as recession. Not only that, the country also fell down and worse because of recession. Okay, through fiscal policy, it is more focused on contractionary. Some major tax cuts for household were launched as much as 20 million euros over 5 years to help the economic weight and people in need. This was approved by the President of the Republic to help the French people. Some people's economy will become grow stable and good, but however, taxes on food as well as tobacco will be raised. This is to reduce the rate of use because, for example, food can cause air pollution and deplete the Earth's ozone layer, while tobacco is used to make some cigarettes and so on. Okay, we move to the next. Same goes to fiscal policy. Monetary policy also divided by two, which is the first is expansionary and second is contractionary. Okay, it works by using central bank control to achieve a stable economy and maintain a country economic stability for optimize the unemployment rate. Okay, for expansionary, it functioned when country had problems such as recession, inflation rate, and so on. Okay, government use a lower tax rate so that people could spend more from the actions. Private sector may increase and the country may free from recession. Besides, for contractionary, it used when country faces the inflation because of price level become higher dramatically. Plus, it will limit the money supply and government so the economy will be stable like usually.
Hi, my name is Nur Fatih Sharini binti Rosli. You can call me Fatin. What is inflation? Inflation is a continuous increase in the general price level of goods and services in the economy of the country. More money needed to be paid for the goods and services. There are two types of inflation, which is demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. The inflation rate in France. The statistic shows that the inflation rate in France from 1986 to 2020 with projection up until 2026. As you can see, in 1989, it has the highest inflation rate, which is 6.57%, while in 2015, is the lowest inflation rate, which is 0.09%. In 2020, the inflation rate for France is 0.53%, while in 2021, it increased to 1.08% compared to the previous year. This is because of the pandemic COVID-19 hit the world. France estimate the inflation in their country will increase until 2026. The inflation rate is calculated using the price increase of a defined product basket. This product basket contains products and services on which the average consumer spend their money through the year. They include expenses for groceries, rent, power, telecommunication, recreational activities, and raw material, for example gas and oil, as well as federal fees and taxes.
My name is Nur Farahima binti Abdul Rahim, and just call me Farah. So I'll talk about causes of inflation. First of all is cost push inflation. Cost push inflation works when the cost rises. Okay, the aggregate supply of goods and services decrease so that the supply curve will move to the left. Okay, the aggregate supply is the total volume of goods and services produced by an economy at a given price level. Okay, when the aggregate supply of goods and services decreases because of an increase in production cost, it results in cost push inflation. Okay, cost push inflation means prices have been pushed up by increases in the cost of any of the four factors of production, which is labor, capital, land, and also entrepreneurship. Okay, when companies are already running at full production capacity, companies cannot maintain profit margins by producing the same amounts of goods and services. Then their costs are higher and their productivity is maximized. That is why the supply curve moves. Supply curve will move to the left. Okay. The second one is demand pull inflation. Okay, demand pull inflation. It caused by increase in expenditure in the economy. Okay. Demand pull inflation occurs when there is an increase in aggregate demand categorized by four sections of the macroeconomy, which is households, businesses, governments, and foreign buyers. Okay. When the concurrent demand for output exceeds what the economy can produce, the four sectors compete to purchase a limited amount of goods and services. That means the buyers bid prices up again and cause inflation. Okay, the excessive demand, also referred to as too much money chasing too few goods, usually occurs in an expanding economy. Okay, when expenditure rises, the demand for product also rises. Then the aggregate of demand line will move to the right. Okay. Then when expenditure decreases, the line will shift to the left. Okay, the next one is about measure to control inflation. Okay, for cost push inflation, the measure to control it is the firms respond to this by raising their prices. When the firm raising their prices, automatically they are passing the cost onto the consumers, onto the customers or consumers. Okay, then the customer will, if they want to buy anything, they will buy it with higher prices. So when they buy it in higher prices, so that they will control their expenditure. Okay. This can help to overcome the inflation. Obviously, this has not been such a problem in France in recent years. Inflation in France dropped significantly between 1982 and 1987 and has stayed low since. Okay, the next one is demand pull inflation. Okay, to control demand pull inflation, the government should increase the tax. When the tax is increasing, it can reduce the impact of inflation on the economy. Why? Because the disposable income of individuals will decrease and their consumption of goods and services will also decrease. Okay. Indirectly, this way can lead to a fall in prices so that inflation can be controlled.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Suhaila binti Muhammad Azman. So I'm going to talk about unemployment in France. Okay, so high unemployment in France has persisted despite the fact that in the recent years, France microeconomic performance has compared fairly with the other group of G7 or European Commission countries in other respect. In the last 5 years, growth has been in line with EC and the G7 average, while inflation has been below both. Low inflation has contributed to improved competitiveness and leads to trade surpluses. However, unemployment creation was disappointing even in times of strong growth, and the current recession has led to a quick fall in employment. There are two types of unemployment in France, which is structural and cyclical. For the structural, French economy is not currently showing any sign of upward pressure on prices. Economy close to potential should see inflation close to target. Economists generally start by mentioning globalization. International competition has pushed down inflation, partly through imports of goods produced in low-cost countries and partly through the requirement for local companies to remain competitive, keeping wages under pressure. Second, for cyclical, according to the EC, weak demand is only having a marginal effect on France's highest unemployment, since cyclical unemployment is almost non-existent.
Hi, my name is Nur Afifah binti Muhammad Rusli. Now we go to the unemployment rate in France. From this graph, we can tell that real gross domestic product's growth rate has suffered dramatic drops between 2008 and 2009 compared to the previous year. Despite having an increase between 2009 and 2030, the unemployment in France has not reached the high record of 2008 yet. Plus, the unemployment rate have increased by almost 2% this last decade. After that, we move to the unemployment rate in France following the COVID-19 outbreaks. During this pandemic, many people have suffered due to the loss of their jobs. To show you, this bar chart proven us about the increasing of unemployment rate in France from the first quarter of 2020 to the fourth quarter of 2021. This is depending on the number of pandemic waves. Next, we go to the method how to overcome the unemployment in France. Firstly, adapting skills to the job market. The relationship between schools and companies and skills with companies is daily central importance in transition from education to the workplace. In this context, public policy has desired to advance work-study programs continually over the past 30 years. At the same time, their numbers have increased among students pursuing high-level degrees, irrespective of the fact that their job prospects are better than less education peers. Secondly, continuing education. Companies, government, and households spend 31 billion in 2012 on continuing education for workers and job seekers, unskilled workers, and the unemployed. An effort has been made to provide workers with individual tools to obtain training, like training leaves of absence and personal training account, and put in place programs to help workers change careers paths. France established the Council for Career Development in 2015 to provide further support. Thirdly, spending priorities to foster employment. The first step that we can do is lowering cost of labor. France has pursued a policy of exempting employer contributions on lower wage for the past 25 years. While this has reduced wage inequality and boosted job quality, its effect on poverty has been uncertain for the simple reason that a large portion of the population is jobless or forced to work part-time. Moreover, the cost of exemptions on low-paying jobs for employees is rising. For an example, all income or institute consumptions or carbon tax as a means for funding it. In this way, the overall cost of labor could then be reduced for all job levels as a way to boost competitiveness. The second step is to aid for the unemployment. In 2014, France made the important decision to allow jobless workers to save their unused unemployment insurance, the rights to which were accumulated in their previous job in the event they take up a new position. At the same time, France updated its National Employment Center, which was created in 2008, and put in place new forms of individualized aid for job seekers. What's more, the country offers unskilled workers and young graduates the opportunity of negotiation a contract, its subsidies, encouraging employers to take on the most vulnerable in the job market. Then we go to the how a regulatory framework can boost the job market. Firstly, France reduced the legal duration of the working week from 39 hours to 35 hours in 2000. At the same time, it exempted certain employee contributions in order to reduce the cost of low-wage jobs. The focus on the durations of the work week in France has been there hasn't been a wider debate on how to reconcile worker expectations and company needs when it comes to working hours. Last but not least is employment contracts. Policies regarding the contractual relationship between employer and employer in France have alternated between reinforcing worker protection and making work more flexible, both for fixed term and permanent contracts. A solution would be is to meld the two ways of contracts, make permanent contracts more flexible by modifying the rights that are related to them. This has led to a predicament where part of the working population today has difficulty finding permanent employment, leading to a two-tier job market.